Hey everybody, today is October 5th, 2025, and you're listening to the Wow We Still Can podcast, where we talk about Missouri news, national news, sometimes international news, and whatever else we feel like discussing. And today we're so happy to have Will Westmoreland back. Thanks for coming back, Will. It's always a treat to talk to you. We know you're out there on the front lines learning how folks are doing and trying to, basically educate people of the reality of the situation right now.
Yeah.
Not always positive, but you're doing what you can.
That might be
Yeah.
the understatement of the century, but I like it. Yeah.
I guess
Well,
if you're a cattle farmer, things are okay right now. It sounds
Yeah,
like cattle
maybe.
prices are high.
Yeah, cattle prices are good. Inputs are high, but there's $3 billion in lost market out there. Once herd sizes get back to normal and we're competing in a regular environment, we're going to have $3 billion less in market share that we can sell to. So I'd say get it while the getting's good, because when things get back to normal, it's not going to be good.
Well, and I can only think that if folks are getting $3,000 for a steer, my burger's going to cost a little more.
Yeah,
Right?
and there's this tipping point. You get to
Yeah.
a certain point, and we've seen this in the past where people replace their protein. So they buy beef, but then when it gets to a certain price per pound, they switch over to poultry and pork. I guess we'll just jump right into it here because it's a great topic. Grocery store prices. This administration, it kind of went unnoticed, but they put this 50% tariff on Brazilian beef. And what a lot of people don't know, the reason a lot of us like me, I belong to the Farmers Union, and a lot of us have been trying to get country of origin labeling put in place so that when you go to the grocery store, you've actually got a label on your food that says this came from the United States, this came from Mexico, this came from Brazil. And there are a lot of reasons for that. There are people with food allergies that want to know where their food comes from. More importantly, I think American beef is some of the best beef in the world. So if you're buying steaks, you want to know. But we buy a lot of boxed beef in this country, and it gets mixed in with other beef and it's sold at the grocery store. You may have an amalgamation of different beefs that are from different countries that you're buying. Well, they put
okay.
a 50% tariff on Brazilian beef, which made the price of boxed beef go up. So that's raising the price at the grocery store. So at whatever point, I mean, right now Americans are they're saying we want our beef, but at whatever point that price per pound gets too high, and they stop buying beef and switch over to poultry and pork or fish or whatever it might be, then you'll see cattle prices start to go down.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was promised cheaper groceries, Will, but I just got some chickens instead. Yeah,
I hate to
because
be the
that's
one
so
to break
cheap.
it to you, but some of the things that Trump said were not true.
Oh my
I don't
God,
want to be
it's
that guy,
outrageous.
Hey, I was
but
lied to. I was lied to, Will.
yeah,
I wasn't wrong.
yeah.
I was lied to.
You're not alone. That's our motto at the Back 40. You don't have to admit you were wrong, but at least admit you were lied to.
We use that quite often on people,
Please
and
do.
we
Yes,
totally
daily.
were like, our bro Will be
Yeah.
dishing
Yeah.
this out. So you're
It's funny
stupid,
because all the
but
time I get these messages from people saying, hey, this rural creator is copying your stuff. This rural creator is copying your stuff. And I'm like, go for it.
Yeah.
That's why we're doing
seriously.
this.
Which now's a good time to pause and tell everyone where they can find you.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So I'm on most social media platforms, either under Westmoreland Pops. So it's WESTMORELAND POPS. My grandkids call me Pops. My kids call me Pops. That's where that comes from. Or there might be an underscore in there, Westmoreland underscore Pops. And I think I'm on, what do the old people say? I'm on all the social medias.
We are on the
So
medias, on the World
yeah,
Wide Webs,
I'm on the
the
internet.
internets.
Oh,
Yeah, you got it. You
Well,
got it.
I will find your tags and stuff, and I will put them in the
yeah.
description below so that they can just
Yeah.
go straight to it.
And your
If you
your
find us
TikTok
on
account is
if you
terrific.
find us on TikTok, we've got a link tree
Yeah.
in there, and I think it's got everything linked to it. So.
Cool. So
Okay,
what else
cool.
are you learning out in the world?
Well, I
Out
got to tell
Yes.
you, I've been, let's see, where all have I been since I talked to you guys last? Holy cow. I've been to Texas twice. I've been to Virginia, Illinois. I've been to Arkansas, Kansas several times, Oklahoma, Iowa a couple of times. I think I may have even made it into Nebraska once, even though I didn't realize I was there.
yeah.
And people are really worried. I mean, they are honestly really worried. And I'll tell you how it normally goes is I try to talk to Republicans too and independents. And what'll typically happen is when I go do a presentation, I'd say it's usually about 65% Democrat, and they'll all come up with over, pat me on the back, give me an attaboy. Then they're headed down the road to the restaurant to eat. And then the next group that comes up will be the independents, and they're like, hey, you've given us a lot to think about. I didn't vote for the guy. Or maybe they'll say I voted for him this time, but not the last time. And then when everybody else goes, there'll be a small group of like 7 people looking around to make sure nobody sees them.
Right.
And they will meander up to the front of the room and they'll be like, man, we made a mistake.
What do we? So they're admitting it.
Yeah.
I feel like that's progress. They're admitting they stepped in it. That's the first step.
And I'm not even asking for that. I mean, like, just blame it all on Trump. He lied to you.
Yeah.
He pulled the wool over your eyes. He bamboozled you. Whatever you want to call it. Use your favorite term. Insert here. Just admit that you're ready to get on our team and start pushing for good rural policy. And listen, when I say our team, I don't even necessarily listen. I don't hide the fact I've been a Democrat all my life. But when I say our team, I'm just talking about good policy. It's
at this point, we're talking about democracy. My goodness.
Yeah. Right? Like following the Constitution, no matter how stupid it can be sometimes. Like, we have guidelines here, guys. Like, but nobody's following them.
At this point, I would take a Republican in the primary who believes in democracy, a school board that doesn't ban books, a health department that doesn't think vaccines are from the devil, a county clerk that believes in free and fair elections. Now, I'm still waiting for one of those to run, but if they do, we could support them at the back 40,
Absolutely.
So,
absolutely. And that's how I feel like back in the day, by that I mean 20 years ago, they just weren't this crazy. It's insane. It's insane. So, yeah.
You make a good point, though, when you say 20 years ago, because, this is going to be really frightening. Like, you almost have to go back 30, 35 years.
I know.
The first, so I'll age myself a little bit here. You guys, let's see, did you guys graduate from high school late 90s, early 2000s?
I'm 92.
Okay, 92. All right. So I graduated in 86. You graduated. Okay. I got to find out what supplements you're taking if you graduated in 92 because.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh.
Because I only graduated
sunscreen.
2 years.
I spent 20 years in a hospital. There's no sun.
And I feel like there's a big difference here. Anyway, sidebar. The first Rush Limbaugh stickers started appearing on trucks and cars in rural America back in about 1985. And, it was like Rush is right. And that's when you started to see, and I'm sure you guys have heard me talk about this before, that's where when you'd go into a dairy barn or you'd be on a job site and you'd hear Paul Harvey in the background. And then all of a sudden it became Rush Limbaugh. And then Rush got joined by Sean Hannity and Don, Savage and all these other guys that were out. So it's taken them 35, 40 years to poison the well. And the part I think that scares a lot of people because we wonder, can democracy hang on that long, is it could take us that long to win rural America back. It's not going to happen overnight. But I do think, on a positive note, we've got the president's lost 6 to 9% of his support in rural America. So I think there's enough there to hold that wall and actually really do well in the midterms if we can prevent, the manipulation of democracy enough to do it.
Right.
And then start building back from there.
Yeah,
I don't think it's going to make it 35 years.
No.
Not at this rate. But
Well, my problem is, they won't even swear, the government is shut down right now because these men don't want people to know that they had sex with children. They're just holding the whole country hostage over the Epstein shutdown, which is what I'm calling it, even though every time I get on a government website, it says Democrats shut this down.
Yeah.
That's insane. I just got on the CDC website earlier, and it's like the Democrat shutdown is preventing you from getting this information. It literally said that on a national website.
The good news is they're getting hammered on the shutdown. The polling shows that the Republicans are the party being blamed for this. The polling, I know we're all wary of polling, right? I want to be clear about one thing. In the last election, the polling did not catch as many Democrats staying home as stayed home in the election. When we polled them, they said they were motivated to go vote. It was above 90%. This is the one thing in the polling that it did not catch, is that 8 million, 14 million, whatever number you want to look at, that many Democrats would stay home. And the reasons behind it, I covered on my podcast. I shouldn't call it a podcast. On one of my lives, I covered some polling that we did in Colorado about why Democrats either voted for Donald Trump or stayed home, and it was all economic. It was all the politics of resentment. It wasn't because they were racist or because they were horrible people. It's because if they voted and they voted for Trump, they were voting for the person that screamed the loudest that it's all bullshit and I'm going to fix it for you.
Yeah.
Or they just said, screw both parties, I'm going to stay home. And, I'm just speaking for myself. Like, I don't get that mentality. I get being upset. I get being angry. But when democracy's on the line, I don't understand that mentality. But it's the world we live in, and it's the situation we have to deal with. So
I know it's very hard, though. It's very hard
It
to. I'm like, no, they're going to grab your neighbors. And
Yeah.
they're like, but, my bread costs like 10 cents more. And Trump said,
See, 4 years ago, I would have been one of the people that would have sat here and said, let's not go too far on the grab your neighbor thing. That would have been me 4 years ago. Okay.
Oh, I knew.
Now I sit here and I watch it happen in real time. Before I came on with you guys, I went, you can't even call it a rabbit hole. It's right out there on regular mainstream news. I've been watching what's happening in Chicago, and that's exactly what it is. I mean, that's exactly what it is.
The ICE budget now is just insanity.
I don't want to use the Gestapo word, but I will say this: there's no way you can't argue, or there's no way you can argue that they're not becoming the private police force of the executive branch.
Oh,
anybody
absolutely.
that they don't use warrants. They half the time they don't identify themselves.
Right.
There's no reasonable way to track a person once they're in custody. It's out of control.
They're disappearing people.
Yeah. I told you guys two things the last time I was on here. I said, number one, I really believe women are going to save us, and I still believe that, because if we can get this congressperson from Arizona seated, I think that's going to result in, and they can't hold, they can, but I hate to think of where we're going to have to go to if they pull it off. They can't keep her from being seated forever. She's going to be seated, because even there's even a movement inside MAGA to get these files released. So eventually they're going to catch enough heat. I mean, I got to tell you guys, when I'm out here, in rural America where I live, that went 82% Trump, that's all they talk about when we eat breakfast or lunch or whatever. It's, I'm starting to wonder, and I'm like, in the back of my head, I don't say it out loud. In the back of my head, I'm like, well, what in the hell do you think they're hiding this stuff for? He's in there,
He is the files, my friend.
Right.
He is.
The other thing I believe now that I may not have believed the first time I came on, and that is, I think your generation had a better grasp of where this could all go than my generation did. I wanted to think it could get bad, but still we would maintain the rails. And at this point, I don't believe that anymore. I think that whether or not we maintain the rails is 100% dependent upon how hard we fight leading up to these midterm elections. If we lose these midterm elections,
we're done.
I think the rails could be gone.
Yeah. Well, I hate to be right, but I usually
when
am.
it comes to this, you hate to be right, but then, eyes wide open,
Well, I had been the canary in the coal mine for like 10 years. And I'm telling you, Will, this is a funny story that I've told before. But before I started going to therapy in 2019, and when I went to therapy, I started going because I was like being OCD about germs. And I was also afraid of concentration camps, right? So I started going to therapy. There's a freaking pandemic. Like,
the first part of that made me smile. The second part scares the hell out of me. So
okay, right? Yeah. Yes, I know that. And so now we're at the concentration camp part, and I'm like, so I texted my therapist the other day, and I was like, hey, do you remember like when I first started coming? And he's like, yeah, please stop. No more. No more. No more. And I'm
Yeah,
like, okay,
that's not a
yeah.
good sign.
No,
Well, things
no.
have gotten so crazy in the news, and just the things that the Republicans that are in charge, including our military, director or the
Keg's breath.
yeah. I would think that more and more reasonable people that don't pay any attention to politics, all they see is maybe a headline here and there, have to be getting to the point where they're concerned at least. You
Yeah.
know.
I'm always careful now. One of the things that's happened, and I'm sure you guys have experienced this a little bit too, is I've made friends with people that serve in government and they reach out to me now. And like there are a lot of people in the USDA that reach out to me. And like I want to be really careful about, calling out what they tell me. But I
Sure.
also have had some people in the military. And I will
Yeah.
give you one piece of positive advice, or not
Please,
advice, but
yes.
Yeah.
positive news. The military ain't buying what he's selling. I
Okay, I
would tell,
figured.
I would tell you that coming at it, I mean, I've heard from people that were in that meeting that it was a holy shit moment for everybody that was there. Like
Yeah, because
even the people that voted for Trump and supported him were like, this guy
Well,
brought us here to brag about the fact that he does pull-ups and
yeah.
that we need to lose weight,
And
you
his
know,
boss
and
wears pull-ups. No, I'm
yeah.
kidding. Sorry, I had
Now,
to.
well, you stole my punchline, but that's where I was going.
Sorry.
So I don't,
yeah.
there are positive things we need to grab hold of, but I'm always worried about talking about it because I don't want us to quit fighting.
Right.
We're all in
Absolutely.
that top level, fight mode right now. We got to stay there, no matter how good
Mm-hmm.
the polling looks, no matter whether the courts are holding for right now, no matter
Mm-hmm.
whether, the military seems to be against this. I saw, uh, I saw some National Guard people in Chicago that were, buckling a little bit when the people were in their face like, you were an immigrant. How can you
Yeah.
do this? And you could see the look on their face
Yeah.
and the reaction. So
Maybe
there are
some
positive
shame.
things happening. Yeah,
That's
but
good.
we've
Yes.
got to keep fighting.
Yeah. Well, and even though the generals and the admirals and the flag officers, even though they are against this, like if we put ourselves in their shoes when the rubber meets the road, they could lose their career, they could lose their pension, because of not going along with some things that they're ordered to do, which is a horrible place to be. So
Yeah,
I
it is.
hope that they all come through this unscathed.
I think what gives me hope though is you see like in the Justice Department when they tried to get them to you saw this rash of resignations. They had to
Yeah.
go through multiple different people in the federal prosecutor's office in Virginia to find somebody. And then what happens? She has to go file it alone. She can't even get any other attorneys in the office there to sign it with her.
Right.
You
And
mean to
I think,
prosecute Jim Coney?
yeah,
Jim
you got
Coney?
it, Jim Comey.
Yeah. Yeah.
They fired somebody because he wouldn't perp walk Jim Comey.
Yes.
Yep.
I think those are the things we've got to hold on to
Yeah.
is, and I would say like the Justice Department, the FBI, the military, those are three organizations where I do think there are people with integrity. It feels weird to say that about the military,
No,
but
it's true. It's very
yeah,
true.
I do think those are three
Yeah.
organizations where people will stand by their
Hmm.
convictions and where the ramifications of people quitting could put enough pressure on this administration for them to have a stopping point.
Right. Well, to put all those people in one room and basically announce when and where it was going to be
Yeah.
was hugely irresponsible, and that alone tells me that they're not thinking strategically in any way, shape, or form. I mean,
No, he
what
had
a
a couple
disaster.
drinks and threw
You
everybody in
know,
a signal chat.
listen,
Huh.
I'm a 57-year-old white farmer who's 40 pounds overweight in
I
rural
thought you looked
America.
skinny, by the way, Will. I
I've
was going to
lost
say that.
31 pounds.
You
You
look
Yeah.
great.
have, way
So,
to go. That's not easy to do.
but how this guy doesn't get what a caricature he is, Hegseth, how he
Hmm.
doesn't understand what a caricature he is and how people view him. I know that he's probably surrounded by sycophants that, play into his ego, but this slicked back hair, white Christian nationalism tattoo, like when he tries to be cool, like I don't know if you saw him at the ball game trying to do the dance at the ball game, and
He's very uncool.
he's just like, I played that
Try.
video. I was eating lunch with some other guys that I know voted for Trump. At least they don't all support him now, but I know they voted for him. I was just playing some of these videos of Hegseth, and I'm like, this is the guy you meatheads would have made fun of in high school, like,
Yeah.
and they're sitting
Like,
there like you can just see it on their face, like, yeah, that's
Yeah.
true.
that's embarrassing.
I would guess at the root of things, he's deeply insecure.
Yeah.
Well,
Deeply.
Yeah.
Okay, I think he is a malignant narcissist and has no idea. And he's
think?
also an alcoholic. So
Yeah.
he really is just out in, he is just trying to make
met
it day
a
to
million
day.
guys like him, and I bet you have too. Like, listen, what was it with his second wife? They just had their baby, and then he was, before he even got divorced, he had his third wife pregnant. I mean, it's like there are a million guys like that out there. Just roll the dice, let the chips fall where they may. They don't care. They're above it all. They never get in trouble. I mean, he is
Never get in trouble. That's
Yeah.
the key
That's
thing right
key.
there.
Yeah.
He
No
literally
consequences.
he assaulted a woman and raped her and did not get
Allegedly.
in trouble for. Okay, allegedly.
Trying
And
to keep
then
legal off your case, Tina.
I mean, I'm already going to several camps. My mom took Tylenol. I'm going away.
Yeah,
I'm going
yeah.
away. Okay.
Well, there were two kind of guys when I was growing up, and he falls into the bad category.
Sure.
There were guys, I like to think like me, that when they saw stuff like that happening, they were like, no way. They stepped into the fray. They said no.
Mm-hmm.
And then there were the guys like him that perpetuated it,
Absolutely.
And he's
yeah.
I mean, it's
I
your
don't
classic bully, right?
Yeah.
Or
Well,
you're-
classic bully that can't stand up against, always going after weaker people. And this is his
That's the whole
opportunity, I feel
administration.
like. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I feel like this was his big moment to stand up in front of people that have given their lives to defending this country and the Constitution of the United States, and to feel like a big guy,
Yeah.
to feel like a big guy, even though everybody out there watching it for the most part, and the people in that room were just sitting there like
Cringing.
just cringing. Yeah. What a great
Yes.
way to put it. I was going to go on some eloquent rant. Cringing
No.
is the best way to put it. Yeah.
As the teenagers would say, that's cringe. They
Yeah.
say it every
Yeah.
time I do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't even. Okay, so I had read something that they were incorporated in some sort of AI to watch their facial expressions to see if to put them in categories of loyal and not loyal. I
Whoa.
don't know.
They had a hard time finding anybody loyal in that room because
Right, everybody's fired. Get out.
it looked. What was the? Don't screw around with the cat ladies or something. It looked like everybody was watching that video or something in the room. They
Right.
were all like,
Of
I
course,
don't
these are
know.
people that are prohibited from being political most of the time,
Well, I'll tell you when I get that look. I get that look when I'm listening to somebody and I know more than them, and yet I'm being forced to listen to them, and I know everything they're saying is bullshit, and it's
Yeah.
not going to
Painful.
help me. It's not going to work on my farm. It's not going to work in a campaign. That's
Right.
the look they had on their face. Was like, why am I listening to this idiot?
Yeah.
Well,
Fair.
Trump said he wished he had the generals that Hitler had, so.
And
You
then
know?
he got up there, and what the hell was that?
It's just so embarrassing.
A loyalty test. That's what that was.
I mean, Trump's
He-
speech. It was like,
Oh, I know. And he was like, if you don't like what I'm saying, you can get up, but you can
but
say
he looked
bye to
like
your
a guy
pension.
fighting off Adderall. Like he took
Oh,
Ambien.
yeah.
Ambien. Yeah.
Maybe a combo. Like he just
Maybe
had
a
a
combo.
bowl and he just kind
Allegedly.
of,
There you go.
yeah,
Lisa.
allegedly.
I hope we learn someday all the behind the scenes information about this. It'll be tragically fascinating.
Yeah, and I mean, I was telling somebody the other day, like, this goes totally against my nature because, like, I want politics to be serious because we have serious problems and we have to address serious issues. And listen, I truly believe rural America is on the verge of just being 100% corporatized. We've got people moving away in droves. The only people that aren't moving away are wealthier people that own land and the very poor that can't afford to move away. So we need some really serious approaches to rural policy, and we've got a clown show. And I'm just
Yeah.
at the point where I think the only way you can defeat a clown show is to call it out as a clan show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a
Yeah.
Freudian slip.
Freudian slip.
Clown
Yeah.
show. Yeah.
Amen to that. It
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
You're not wrong.
But you
Yeah.
get my point. It's like
Yeah.
we can't. I'm not going to sit here anymore like I did maybe 3-4 years ago and try to pretend
Mhm.
we're going to try to change this by playing by the 1990 set of rules. We're past that.
Exactly. We're
You know.
so far beyond that.
Yeah.
Are you aware of any new legislation that could be helpful for us?
Yeah. So you guys want to talk a little bit about rural healthcare?
Absolutely.
Okay, because there's a lot happening out there. We talked the last time I was on. I think we were right at the beginning of talking about what could happen in rural healthcare, that kind of thing. And I think I mentioned then we had about 700 rural healthcare facilities, hospitals, clinics, that type of thing were in danger of closing. Well, the big beautiful bill passes, and now we're looking at a number twice that size, maybe 3 times that size. I was in a congressional district out in Virginia just a weekend ago where they had 2 or 3 hospitals just in that congressional district that are in danger of closing because of Medicaid cuts. I did a video about a congressional district in West Texas that's got 5 hospitals in one congressional district that are in danger of closing. So I reached out to when I knew I was coming on the podcast, I reached out to my friends at the National Rural Health Association. They did a nationwide telephone town hall with me a couple months ago. We had about 6,000 people that came through there, and
Wow.
I'm not saying this to try to be self-deprecating because I am a social media content creator, but I'm not one of the biggest ones out there. So a guy with 500,000 followers to have 6,000 people come on a call because they're scared about rural healthcare, that says a lot.
Yes,
That
it
says a
does.
Absolutely.
lot, you know. So I asked him, I said, can you put together some figures specific to rural America for me with these cuts? And they did that for me. And I asked him, I said, the first thing that's coming is we've got these, they call them marketplace enhanced premium tax credits, but basically these are the ACA credits you get. So whenever you apply for insurance under the Affordable Care Act on the exchange, you put in your income information for what you think it's going to be the next year. And what happens is the system calculates that and it gives you an insurance per month price based on that calculation. And then at the end of the year and month to month as you go along, you pay your premium amount and the federal government pays the insurance company the remainder of the amount that you get in the credit. Then at the end of the year, if you made less than what you thought you were going to make, you get some tax credits back in your tax return. If you make more than what you thought you were going to make, it's evened up in the wash then. If you should have gotten a little bit less tax credit, then they even it out in the wash then. So a lot of people did not know, including a lot of people that voted for Donald Trump, because 80% of these tax credits that are going to expire go to rural America. They didn't realize that these credits were going to end at the end of the year. And what it's going to lead to is that in rural America, we're going to see an average increase in monthly premiums of $133 a month. But that average is that's a big amount, but it's only that low because so many people get credits. What we're actually going to see is that whatever your amount is for your premium, it's going to double. So I'm
Wow.
fortunate enough that I do okay for myself. I'm older, so I've got assets. I pay $1,700 a month for health insurance.
Oh my
Mine's going to
goodness.
go to $3,400 a month, and at that level, I can't
That's
afford it. It's
that's
that simple.
outrageous.
Yeah, I can't afford it, and we're going to see that across the board in rural America, where unless you're working for somebody that's providing you with health insurance, if you're on the ACA, you're an enrollee, you're going to see an average increase of $133, but overall, you're just going to see a doubling. And then when we first did the ACA, we gave about $890 extra a year in credits to people that live in rural America because our insurance on average is that much more expensive because we've got fewer hospitals, fewer alternatives. We have more chronic illness, that kind of thing. So the difference in insurance is typically about $890 a year. So we have these things called EPTCs, and we got $890 extra a year. Well, those expire too. So not only is it going to hit us hard in rural America, like it is everywhere else. This is not just a rural American problem. It's cities,
Everywhere.
suburbs, everyone. But it's going to hit us even harder in rural America because we're going to lose those additional credits as well. I think in the numbers they gave, no, I don't think I know in the number. Well, here, looking right at it. In the numbers they gave me, rural areas are projected to see a 30% drop in marketplace coverage and a 37% rise in the number of people without insurance. And what we know is that for every 1% of uninsured in this country, every time that increases by 1%, it results in many thousands of people dying. So you calculate what a 37% increase in uninsured people in rural America is going to mean, because when you're uninsured, what could have been identified as stage 1 cancer because you had insurance and you went and got your CT scan or MRI, all of a sudden you don't do anything till you get sick, and now it's stage 4 cancer.
And they have to stabilize you at the hospital for
That's
now.
right.
For
That's
now.
Right.
And we pay for that anyways.
That's right.
Because
Rural hospitals aren't going to be able to subsidize that. They're not going to be able to stay open if that many people are uninsured. There's just no way.
So I graduated from Bolivar High School, which, back then, I think when I graduated, it had 7,000 people. Today, it's only got like 11,000, but it's got a little college and it's a pretty thriving little town. But I had a farm accident. I think I mentioned this last time I was here. I had a farm accident when I was a kid. 2 years after I had that farm accident, they decided to open a rural hospital. So I think I mentioned before, now I laid out on the ground for an hour and 50 minutes waiting for help to arrive when I was a kid.
My God.
Because that ambulance had to be dispatched from the hospital that they took me to, which was 30 miles away. So 30 miles to get to me. They couldn't find me. They found me. There was no GPS, anything like that. Then they did all of the triage out on the barnyard there and then took me to the hospital. Well, today that would only be 36 minutes because they could dispatch a helicopter. A helicopter could have landed in the alfalfa field. They do all that work and then triage me actually in the air ambulance on the way. So hour and 50, 36 minutes. Well, that little hospital that they built is a break-even hospital. They call them break-even hospitals. So they try to charge just enough so that along with their federal government dollars they get in Medicaid and what they bill their patients, they break even. And their administrator came out and did a interview with NPR. This tells you how bad it is. Republican local hospital administrator on NPR saying that they're going to lose $3 million a year and they don't know how they're going to make it up. Well, I'll tell you how they're going to make it up. They're either going to eliminate services, which usually means cancer care, OBGYN services for women, this type of thing, or they raise prices. And when they raise prices to cover $3 million a year, then they price people that need that health care out of the marketplace. So this is it. I mean, again, I'm not one that likes to use hyperbole a lot, but I've heard it called by administrators who run hospitals in rural America. This is really an apocalypse that's coming, for rural American healthcare.
Well, it feels very, with AI coming and them needing less in the workforce, I get a little vibe that like maybe they're just kind of cutting, like, oh, sorry, guess you just die. Where are these homeless people going? Like, I don't know,
A question that just popped into my mind.
Go ahead.
A lot of times to understand something, you follow the money as far as who it benefits, right? So we know who it hurts when rural healthcare and hospitals close. Obviously, the people that live there have to travel. It's hard to recruit people to a community that doesn't have a hospital.
That's right.
But who would benefit from that situation? Would it be the people that could buy farms at a discount because people leave en masse? Is that how it, who benefits?
Anytime small farms start selling out, it's good for corporate agriculture, by the way, which get 80% of the subsidies, that come down to rural areas. Small farms and ranches only get about 20% of the subsidies. Now, that's critical for them, but 80% of the subsidies go to corporate ag. And by corporate ag, I mean big corporate ag. Like there are a lot of farmers like me. I have incorporated, but I'm not big
Yeah.
corporate ag by any stretch of the
Yeah.
Sure.
imagination. You do that to, for liability reasons and that kind of thing. So yeah, it could benefit them because what they're doing, Lisa, is they're taking farmland and they are packaging it together as collateral for bigger deals that they're doing. So when Acre Trader and these groups come in and they buy up farmland, they may rent that farm to a farmer to farm, but that's not where they're making their money. What they're doing is they're taking, say, Tim Farms, 5,000 acres, and they're packaging that together and they're using that as collateral to take out the money that they need to do a bigger project somewhere else. And who knows what that, it's almost been
Okay.
used as capital
Okay.
venture or
Okay.
venture capital money. And what the
Yeah.
big fear is, remember in 2008, like you had these videos on YouTube of the sheriff showing up and they'd be kicking somebody out of a house and the person would be like, wait a minute, I've been paying my rent. And they
Mhm.
had been. But the person that owned the property, the landlord, had not been paying the mortgage on the property. So
Right.
the person
Oh,
renting
yeah.
it was being kicked out. Well,
Right.
imagine that happening across the country to small family rented farms. When these big deals go bust in this Trump
Right.
economy, then all the
Yeah.
collateral farms that are being used at these big package venture capital deals, could farmers be kicked off of there? I don't think that's a chance we want to take.
Okay. I have a question for you,
Yeah.
Will. So, why, besides family farmers and people losing their farms, obviously, why is, can you tell people why corporate ag is bad?
Yeah, it's bad for the food supply, number one, because what happens is you get a siloing effect in the kinds and types of foods that are being made. One of you has a medical background, right? Did I remember that
We
right?
both do.
Okay. All right, great. So you probably saw the study that came out, and this was a pre-RFK Jr. study that showed that processed foods in this country are responsible for a lot of the health issues
Hmm.
that we have, and it was a reliable study. Um, this siloing effect leads to less diversity in the food supply. So, right now in the poultry industry, typically what happens is a big giant international conglomerate comes in, they drop little chicks off at a farm, and the farmer's only job is to feed that animal to grow it up to the size where it's processed. And then another big truck comes and picks it up. They don't have any control over the genetic diversity of that animal. They don't have any control over the regimen of feed and antibiotics and things like that that go to that animal. That's happened in poultry. For the most part, it's happened in the hog industry. Although a lot of hogs are still born on the farm, it's in awful conditions. They're kept in sows are kept in any really small, isolated pens that are like 2 feet wide, 4 feet long, and all they do
So
is have
sad.
babies their entire life. And so, same deal. The hog farmer is raising hogs for a big national conglomerate. They don't control the inputs. They don't control anything. In the cattle business right now, we've still got local control. So, for instance, when I operated a 300 cow calf operation with my family, I very rarely used antibiotics. I only used antibiotics when I legitimately had a sick animal and I thought it was necessary because their normal immune system. Uh, Now, my
Sure. That's the way it
stepdad,
should
who
be.
passed away before I kind of took over the operations, he had a little bit different mentality about that. But when I took it over, I just made the decision we're only going to give antibiotics to animals that are truly sick. It's
Hmm.
not just going to be part of the regimen. So each
Right.
farmer can determine, what do they feed their cattle? We mostly fed grass, and then we finished them off on corn. If I had it to do over again, I wouldn't even do that. I would just feed grass. That could disappear as well. If we silo everything, what could end up happening? I could see a day coming when the big meat producers and processors in this country just drop calves off at a farm, and the farmer's only responsibility is just to raise that calf up to a certain weight where it goes on to a feedlot, to be slaughtered. So you lose diversity, you lose health. That's why you see, like, if one strain of a bird flu comes into a big poultry operation, they have to euthanize hundreds of thousands, sometimes millions of poultry to account for that. because there's nobody there. Oh, look, those 10 birds weren't impacted by this. We can pull those 10 birds out and we'll start building our poultry flock with those 10 birds that were immune. That doesn't
Yeah.
happen. Everything gets killed, it gets bulldozed under the ground, and we start over with a fresh batch and hope that we don't have another outbreak. So these are just a few of the things that are bad about this siloing and this corporatization.
And so when everything goes to that style, you can't make any money as an individual farmer because everybody else is just doing that. You know, there's no money in raising them
A lot of
yourself
the time,
and
there's no
doing it.
money, and then and I don't throw this word around casually. You're a slave to the international conglomerate. I've seen. I mean, I went to Farm Aid. I got invited to go to Farm Aid, and I sat and listened to a farmer that was on the verge of tears who was raising chickens because that was his life. They never got to go on vacation. They never got to leave the farm. And they were just breaking even. Sometimes they were losing money. They assumed all of the risk in the relationship between the poultry company. And you could just see like it almost broke this guy. And thank God what happened to him is he, instead of going out to the barn and doing what a lot of farmers do, he decided to become an activist and fight back. And he had an incredible story to tell. But yeah, it's really bad and it's getting worse. And this siloing effect, and it's what we've seen too, guys, in corn and soybeans. Everybody's growing corn right now and soybeans. We've got places where people like down in Georgia, we never raised corn down there. And now we're raising corn down there because it's been big, get big or get out, get big or get out. And now what happens when you eliminate 37% of the foreign markets for row crop goods? Now you got a bunch of farmers sitting there that are going to go bankrupt unless we do the biggest farmer bailout in the history of this country. What happens if you don't do the bailout? Because I'm one of those people, I have moments when I'm not on a podcast where I say, I guess we're all going to have to eat out of trash cans, or this is what they voted for. But the thing is, growing up poor, I know who's going to get hurt if the food system crashes. It's not going to be a bunch of wealthy MAGA farmers.
Yeah.
It's going to be poor kids. It's going to be the elderly. And it's going to be a giant shit sandwich, because there's no other term I can think of, that we're going to have to eat this shit sandwich of farm subsidies to save farms, because the only thing worse than losing these farms would be what happens to poor people, the elderly, etc., if the food system collapses.
Yeah.
But as soon as we get power back again, there is so much about farming we have got to fix. Joe Biden was trying to do that. He spent a couple $2 billion on farm to table, on trying to build up regional meat processing facilities so that it wasn't just the big guys that were processing meat in this country. And once Trump came into office, he just canceled all that funding, got rid of it.
It's really a shame that nobody realized that, that because nobody in rural America had much good to say about Joe Biden, but it seems like he was trying.
I think, it's not happening as fast as I want. It's not as many people as I want, but I always tell people, don't forget, 35% of us never bought into that bullshit. We were out here fighting along with everybody else, and slowly but surely, I mean, I don't know if you guys saw it, but there was a MAGA soybean farmer at my Congressman Mark Alford's meeting the other day. The guy that said, I farmed 2,400 acres, he's done with Trump. Now, there are two ways we can respond to that. There's the way I want to respond, which is, wow, you had to get hit over the head with a sledgehammer 3 times before you got it. And then there's the way I need to.
Trafficking didn't do it for you.
There's the way I need to respond, which is, okay, now you get it.
Yeah.
Come join us.
It's
what
true.
are we going to do about it?
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's so sad. And then the fact that you said, how farmers go out back and do what a lot of farmers do.
Well, it's increasing. Bankruptcies are at an all-time high, and suicides are increasing.
I know that they're in a hard, and they're sad. It's a thing. So how can we support them?
Well, I'm glad you asked, because there are 2 pieces of legislation out there that we all need to get behind. The first one is Senate Bill 46. And the second one is House Resolution, or HR is the abbreviation they use, 247. So it's S46 in the Senate and HR 247 in the House. And they're calling this the Healthcare Affordability Act of 2025. And what this is designed to do basically is permanently extend these tax credits that we were talking about.
Okay.
So a lot of farmers buy their insurance through the exchange. A lot of people in rural America buy their insurance through the exchange. So what everybody needs to do, regardless of whether you've got a Democrat or Republican in office, although all the Democrats have signed up to support both of these, you need to call them and tell them to support these two bills. That HR 247, it has a different name in the House. It's called the I think it's called the Bipartisan Premium Tax Credit Extension Act. It's hard to remember all this stuff.
Okay.
But basically, it would extend. The reason they're doing a little bit different version of it in the House is to try to get some Republican votes. It would extend it just through next year. The one in the Senate would make them permanent. The one in the House would extend it through next year because you can't get the Republicans in the House to vote for anything long term. But this would extend these credits. It would prevent the insurance rates from going up by double if you're buying through the exchange, and it would prevent 37% of rural Americans from losing their insurance on January 1st.
Okay, so there's an action item we can do. Yeah. We can get on the phone or email and contact our representatives. I
apologize. I'm going on and on and on. There's just so much to cover. It's hard to,
Yeah. Don't be sorry.
Yeah. No, not at all. This is terrific.
Yeah.
Okay. So we can call our elected officials, and it seems like they do have some things going through. What about?
Can I say one more thing about that? When you all tell your personal stories, like something that I've learned over the last year of doing this, I almost only talk about personal stories now when I'm on the road. Like when I go talk about healthcare, I always start with the story of being a 12-year-old kid laying out there on the ground on that farm, waiting for an hour and 50 minutes for an ambulance to arrive. Because even at 12, I knew the only chance I had of living was for that ambulance to get there and for me to get treatment and to get to the hospital. So while I was telling him today, and sometimes it's a hard story to get through, but I was telling him today when I was laying there on the ground with my grandma and grandpa, we weren't praying for like, let Willie live, we were praying like, get the ambulance here. You know what I mean? Like that, we knew that was the key to me surviving was, getting the ambulance here. And you guys know how important that golden hour is.
Yeah.
And mean, hell, we doubled that. We were well outside the golden hour. So tell your personal stories. Talk about your mom that had a stroke and needs long-term health care and what it's going to mean if Medicaid cuts those services. Talk about your chronic illness. I talked like 4 months ago, I talked to a first responder that was in a rash of tornadoes, and they lost 2 patients on the way to the hospital because it took more than an hour to get to the closest hospital from the rural area where the tornado hit. Those are stories we need to be telling, not, hey, idiot, vote for the good policy.
You're right. I mean, that gets us nowhere to be that way, even though it
makes us feel better. Makes me feel better anyway.
It reminds everybody of the humanness, and it's so easy to get caught up when we're on the internet or watching, terrible videos of our friends and neighbors being kidnapped. Like I hate everyone that supports this, but then I go and I talk to my neighbor who had a Trump sign in his yard, and they ask me if I need them to water my plants while I'm gone, and I'm like, they would help me if my tire was flat. And I'm like, how can you literally vote against my humanity, but then you can help me with my tire?
And I will tell you, as a 57-year-old white man, we have a real problem with admitting when we're wrong.
I know.
Newsflash. Yeah, and I will tell you that to me is one big thing standing in the way of, and honestly, selfishly speaking, that's why I came up with this, term, don't admit you were wrong, just admit you were lied to. It's because
that's amazing.
It puts the onus on them for lying to us.
Sure.
But we're fighting that dynamic as well, we just get in our corners now and we don't want to listen to an alternative point of view. It's harder to do that when you're telling personal stories. Like when you ask the question, don't you want to renew these tax credits? Then you go down this path of illegal immigrants get benefits, even though we know it's bullshit, all these other things.
Yeah.
When you ask the question, would you want your 12-year-old grandson to lay out there for an hour and 50 minutes waiting for an ambulance? Haven't had a single person say yes.
Oh, absolutely. And so one thing that I try to do is like, okay, if people are talking about the immigrant, people coming over here illegally, and I'm like, girl, I know you are a good mom and you love your babies. And
Yeah.
I know that if they were in danger, you would jump over a wall with
Yeah.
Yeah.
them or swim across a river to get them safe into a country that did not even want them there. So, and that's like, if that was your only option, like that was safer than where you were
Wouldn't
at, you're going to
hesitate.
do it.
And
Yeah.
immigration could be fixed overnight. If the Republicans weren't raising $240 million, during each election cycle off of it to win elections, it would have been
Absolutely.
fixed by now. It would
Absolutely.
have been fixed by now. And
Well, to be fair, the Dems could have done that
oh
about
yeah, we were
abortion.
raising our money off of it too. We were raising
Yeah.
our money off of it too. That's the sickening part about politics is that, uh, you know, you had one side raising political money off of kids in cages, and you had another side raising political money off of the one out of every, 3,700 immigrants that come here in an undocumented fashion committing a crime. Both of them, although I will say the Democrats before the last general election, they were agreeing to a bill that was very much in the Republicans' favor. I
I
mean,
know that.
yeah, it even gave the president the opportunity to stop all immigration if they wanted to, and they still wouldn't support it because
Yeah.
they wanted
Absolutely.
it. I mean, you already know this, but they wanted it as an issue to run on, and they wanted it as
Sure.
an issue to raise money on.
Yeah,
Yep.
Trump
It's true.
literally told
Yeah,
them to not pass it.
yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy. Oh my God, that's so crazy. Okay, so what could we do to help farmers? And there was one more question that I had. Oh, what do we want the future to look like? I want people to start thinking about that because we are very caught up in, oh, this is so terrible. Well, to be honest, the Constitution didn't work. It wasn't for everybody, anyways.
Yeah.
So, how can we make this stuff better?
If I
What
if
do
I
we,
just yeah, if I just limit it to rural America, because otherwise we could be here for another 4 hours. We
yes.
really need the equivalent of a rural New Deal program in this country. It's just we're at the point now where the infrastructure in rural America is so bad, the underfunding of our schools is so bad, the
Yeah.
underfunding of our healthcare is so bad that piecemeal approaches are just not going to fix it anymore. And that's
Yeah.
why, you talked about moms a minute ago. There's nothing you wouldn't do to save your child. The same thing can be said about why moms are moving their kids away from rural America. If you
Sure.
can't get good health care for your child, if you can't get your
Right.
child into a good school, and if there's not going to be any economic opportunity for your child once they get to the age where they can work, but you can move here and get all three of those things, what are you going to do as a mom? You're going to move. Unless
Right.
you're in a socioeconomic, stratosphere that doesn't allow you to move because you can't scrape together, even the money for a U-Haul. I
Right.
mean, and that's the reality of the situation. When we finally moved to the farm, if it would have been up to us, we couldn't have done it. My grandfather showed up with horse trailers and, everything else. And he just said, my grandkids aren't going to live in the projects anymore. And he moved us to the farm. So we really need the equivalent of a rural New Deal. And it's going to need to be an investment that fixes the broken infrastructure. When I started my business, I tried to do it in my little hometown. It took 2 years to get the internet infrastructure in my town to be able to effectively run my business. And that's just a bridge too far
Hmm.
for a lot of people.
Yeah.
You can't wait
Absolutely.
that long. You can't grow. You can't rely on it. Every time it storms, every time, Elmer Fudd gets on the wrong tractor and digs a hole in the wrong place, it goes down. So we
Mhm.
need to improve infrastructure. But the other thing we've got to do, and I love the way you put it, and I'm going to start positioning it this way, is what can we do to convince moms to keep their kids in rural America? And that's going to mean good health care, good schools, and good economic opportunity. So it's not just going to be a small thing. It's not going to be a piecemeal program. It's going to require something the equivalent of a rural New Deal to save rural America. Otherwise, we're going to have a two-strata system there where we've got very wealthy corporate ag employing very poor people that don't have any opportunities because they can't afford them.
Oh, yeah.
Which, by the
Yeah.
way, is what generated the largest national political movement in this country, the Grange movement in the late 1800s. It's so funny because you ought to see the faces on MAGA farmers in Kansas and Missouri and Illinois and Wisconsin and Iowa, when I go tell them that odds are their great great grandparents were part of the most progressive farm movement in this country. They had women in positions of power, African Americans in positions of authority in the Grange movement, and they were marching on the streets to fight tariffs and monopolies and everything else. So be careful how much, to MAGA farmers, I'm going to say this. If you're watching the podcast, be careful how deeply you dig into your family tree, because odds are you had a raving progressive in your background somewhere that was trying
Your
to.
grandma was woke as hell.
That's
woke
right.
as hell.
It was probably great grandma, but she was woke.
Yes, she was woke. Woke. That's so funny. Okay, well, that was a really good conversation.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on.
Oh,
it's our pleasure. Thank you so much for being here.
You bet, guys.
We'll have to do it again someday.
I want to just tell you, keep fighting, keep your chin up. There's some good, as a political guy, I'm telling you, there's some good news out there. I don't want everybody to be discouraged all the time, because no news program is going to show us the good news, because the news media doesn't know the difference between a tipped over bicycle and a pile up on a major interstate. But there's a lot of good news out there. And if we fight hard and we keep pushing back against voter intimidation and voter suppression, it's going to be really good for us in the midterm. So just keep fighting. Keep fighting.
We are.
That's
Talk to your neighbors, build community, like have those conversations outside of the internet.
That's right.
And we're going to have to rely on our community moving forward a lot more than I think we have now.
Amen.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you.
All right. Thanks so much, Will.
All right.
We'll see you around. We'll follow you on TikTok. And
until next time. All right. See you guys.
Are you going to be out for No King's Day?
I will be. I don't know where I'm going yet. Or where are you?
Okay.
What town are you guys going to?
I'll be in Jeff, because I'll be with We Stand United again.
That's probably the one I'll be at. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'll see you there.
All right. Sounds good.
Bye.
See ya. Bye-bye.